Hi guys, so we are with the chapter of work and economic life. So here in this video, we are focusing a very important theme in the sociology of work, that how work is organized, right? So you have a topic formal and informal organization of work, and after this you have a topic labor and society. So let's address this one. Every society performs work, but how the work is arranged, how it is supervised, how the work is rewarded, and how these are regulated, that differs differently. And across society and across time also, it is different. Now, sociologist, you can mention here is Amitai Etzioni. I've given this in the PDF also, so you can go through that. Our society is an organizational society. What does that mean? Modern life depends on formal organizations, right? So when I say our society is an organizational society, it means there are formal organizations, like you see schools, you see factories, you have hospitals, you have banks and corporations, bureaucracies, and even our daily interactions are mediated through organized structures. So that's what I mean by our society is an organizational society. But at the same time, a very large portion of work across the world, especially countries like India, the developing countries like India, happens in the informal setting, like daily wage workers there, domestic workers there, street vending is there, contract workers there, right? And small family enterprises are there. So that's why this topic is actually significant. So what we will be doing is we'll try to understand what is formal organization of work, what is informal organization of work, so that your topic is covered. We'll also look at the differences, and we also see why informal sector is so large in our country, and then, or normally why informal sector is so large, and then theoretical perspectives on informal sector, and then Hawthorne studies. These are Hawthorne studies. They can ask you, 10 marker. These are important micro topic. Okay, so let's start with the formal organization of work. See, formal organization is a kind of arrangement of work which is based on, you have rules and regulations, you have proper legal contracts, and the government statutes will be there. Rationally designed structures will be there. There will be proper and clearly defined division of labor. Explicit objectives will be there. So that's some of the criteria or the characteristics you can say. So this type of work organization is the hallmark of modern industrial society, where the work is governed by rational legal authority that we have seen in Weber. Right. So what are the key features? There will be rules and regulation. There will be codified, written, enforceable rules and regulations. And then there will be contractual employment. These are the characteristics. So these are the key features. So contractual employment means there will be appointment letters. In that, everything will be mentioned. There will be fixed terms. And then the rights and duties and obligations, everything will be there. Termination rules and everything will be there. Then bureaucratic structure, there will be hierarchy, proper formal communication, standardized procedures for getting things done, right? Accountability mechanisms will be there, like in terms of performance, performance appraisal, supervisory checks and all those. And legal protection. Workers have the rights, and that will be protected by law. For example, you becoming an IAS officer or IPS officer, you have an All India Service Discipline and Appellate Rule, right? So such kind of rules will be there, and everything is getting protected. So that's the characteristic. Now, if I want to give examples of some of the legal protections, Factories Act, not that important for your, sociology, but I just told you legal protection, so I'm just giving you a few ideas, right? So Factories Act of 1948, Minimum Wages Act, and then Payment of Gratuity Act, and then the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Act. So maybe somewhere you need to mention these when you get the question. Rather, they are not going to ask these questions separately. For example, you got a question on women movement or women issues or violence against women, or any question related to women, right? Related to work also, related to stratification also, you may have to mention this act. So basically, this is ensuring safety, fair wages, workplace dignity, and prevention of exploitation. Now, why this formal organizations have emerged? Because, see, most importantly, industrialization, and then democracy, legal rationality, right? That means there is a need for regulated labor markets. So when you have this formal work, that helps the balance of interest will be there between employer and employee. Things are codified, things are written, and employees' interest and employer interest also getting satisfied, and that keeps exploitation also in check, right? So that's why this is important, and that's how it emerged, I could say. Now again, let's look at informal organization. So see, this is very simple, very easy. You can go through the PDF and you can cover. So I'm just covering it fastly. Now, informal organization of work. So see, it's exactly the opposite, right? It will be like workers are not governed by any fixed rules, no written contracts, no job security, right? No social security also. And it's often controlled by the personal linkages and social networks and not any such specific laws. And workers accept whatever conditions are given. And exploitation is very common, especially of women and children. So when we talk about informal, you can say it's unorganized sector. Okay. So informal is equal to unorganized sector. In India, if you see, unorganized sector is 90% of the workforce. As per 2024, the recent estimate, 90% of the workforce is in the unorganized sector. And if you look at the global informal, employment, that's 62% as per ILO 2018 data. So global level, 62%. Our country, if you see India, it's 90% unorganized sector. If I want to give example, these casual laborers, contract labor, domestic workers, street vendors, various voluntary organizations, home-based workers, seasonal agricultural workers, small shops, family enterprises. See, it may have hierarchy, but not a formal hierarchy. May have some rules, but not standardized or written rules, right? So no social security benefit also. Why this is important sociologically is because, or why this informal structures exist. Because see, it sometimes exists within formal organization also, right? And it exists between workers in a formal setting as well. And it acts as a parallel network also. So that's why Peter Blau, 1963, and later you'll see Meyer and Rowan argued every formal organization contain informal structures. So within formal also there can be informal structure. That means informal structure can exist within formal also. Now, what are the examples? I'll give you that. See that study, Peter Blau, The Dynamics of Bureaucracy, 1963. Informal group norms develop because formal rules cannot foresee all situations. You have rules, regulations, everything which is codified, but at some point of time, some decisions have to be taken. So automatically informal, norms will develop at that point of time because everything is impossible to codify and write. So employers and employees rely on informal networks for their cooperation, efficiency, and social satisfaction. It's not, everything completely based on formal. So these are the two scenarios you can say that happens. And then Mayer and Rowan in Institutionalized Organization, 1977, formal rules often became, ceremonial rituals, not actual practice. So that is there, but what is practice will be different, right? An organization display rules for legitimacy, but follow informal practices for practical functioning. So things will be there in paper and everything, but practical functioning could be different and the informal setting will be there. See, this is extremely important when it comes to this exam. You have to mention this informal setting within formal. So things are codified, but what is actually working will be informal setting within formal because of, there could be many things which may not have formally written. Even if things are formally written, there is an informal setup which is already there, which is more friendly, employee friendly and employer friendly, right? Again, Hawthorne studies. This is micro topic. This is very important for your 10 mark. So what are Hawthorne studies? It's conducted during 1920s and 30s by Elton Mayo and his team at Western, electric company, Hawthorne plant. So the key findings is what we need to know. Workers are motivated not only by money, but also by some other aspects like social needs, emotional needs, sense of belonging, group norms. All these need to be taken care, right? And that's why workers, that's also the motivation of the worker, not only money. So social needs, emotional needs, sense of belonging, group norms. And apart from that, informal groups influence productivity more than formal groups. So guys, this Whether they're asking informal, formal directly, then also you need to bring this. Separately, if they're asking Hawthorne studies or Elton Mayo study, this has been asked before, then also you need to mention all these, right? So informal group influence the productivity more than formal rules. I told you that's practical. The other one is ceremonial, right? And human relations matter more than technical conditions. So what is practical, what is actual will be mostly informal. And, it basically introduced the human relations school in organizational sociology and that pioneered experimental methods in workplace research. So this is a potential 10 marker. So you should be knowing this Hawthorne studies, at least just few points you need to know. Also very useful in answering any question related to work organization. Just add towards the end Elton Mayo or Hawthorne studies, where you talk about informal groups and human relations and all those. Not only for money, people are motivated, the other aspects. These are the three key points that you need to mention. Okay, the motivation aspect, the authority, and bureaucracy, etc. In all these questions, you can write. Now, see, I've given in your PDF the ILO definition of informal sector, but that's not required. Whatever we have discussed so far with the characteristics, with the features, when you write, that shows that understanding part. So if you need to have the definition, ILO defines informal sector as units engaged in production of goods and services, primarily to generate employment and income for those persons concerned, characterized by vulnerabilities and deficits in decent work. Keith Hart, an anthropologist, coined the term informal sector in 1970s. And the features identified are more normally low skills, easy entry, low wages, immigrant labor, lack of legal protection, no job security. So you can mention that name Keith Hart and identify these features, mention these features also. Now there are a couple of theoretical perspective on informal sector that we can discuss. You see, the dualist school. There are four schools of thought I'll be explaining here that you can just keep in mind a couple of points from each of these four school of thought: the dualist school, the structuralist school, the legalist school, and the voluntarist school. Okay, so given in detail in PDF in 100 words or 200 words, but here I'll just quickly mention a couple of points. The dualist school, they say that informal sector is equal to marginal activities. So they provide survival income for the poor, and that exists due to imbalance between population growth and industrial job creation. So, it's actually a safety net during the crisis. That's the dualist school. So they are equating informal sector as marginal activities, and that exists because there is an imbalance between population growth. You need to accommodate them. The job creation are very less. And during crisis, this acts as a safety net. Then the structuralist school. See, for them, informal workers act as subordinated workforce to reduce the labor cost of big firms. There's contract jobs and other things, right? So they increase competitiveness of capitalist firms also because you can bring down the cost. So that increase the competitiveness. And that's part of globalized free market system. So that's the structuralist school thought. And the legalist school is saying informal work exists because formal registration is expensive, time consuming, following the rules. And even I, as an employer, I don't want to make things formal because then I have to give an appointment letter, terms and conditions. And if I want to hire them, I have to follow rules and the notices and all those things. I want someone in my company, I'll just get us informal only. Whenever I want, I can fire. That's how it is, right? So ultimately, I'm a businessman. So I'm looking for maximum profit. So, of course, entrepreneurs avoid this bureaucratic delays and the procedures and everything, and outdated laws that force people to work informally. Okay, that's a legalist school. And the voluntarist school, that's the fourth one. See, some entrepreneurs willingly choose informality, as I told you, because I don't want to make things formal. As and when I see some efficient people, I want to hire them. I see some inefficiency, I want to fire them. So that's not due to state failure. Basically, entrepreneurs, they are calculating the cost benefit and they prefer informal operations. So cost benefit analysis, if I do informal work better for me. So I always prefer to have, as an entrepreneur, informal setup. Formal setup is also there, but at the managerial level, at the higher level. So I have the lower level, which is completely informal, mostly work from home, contract jobs like that. And then higher level, managerial level onwards, I'll go formal. So they emphasize on economic rationality, right? So that means you're staying informal, your competitiveness will increase. You can get the job done faster, easier, at less cost also. Now, there are intersections. In fact, I have told in the beginning also, informal setups exist within formal also, right? Now, what are the intersections? Even when you see formal organization, you need creativity in certain tasks. Like when I talk about creativity, means something outside the rules. That means informal methods, right? Even in formal organization, not everything is written in code. So something outside the rule, creativity, that means informal method. And the project teams, there could be informal interactions among the team members. I am a part of the team, so between the team members, how the project can get it done faster and everything. So informal interactions will be there. Ad hoc committees, though that means they take the informal decision making, right? And then the managerial discretion will be there. So that is also a kind of informal leadership. But still, informal practices, there are some dangers that can lead to corruption, that can lead to collusive bribery. Both come together, both get advantage. So collusive bribery, not coercive, different. Monopolistic practices, insider trading, you got the information faster, so you can do that. So informal network can enable efficiency, but it also can undermine the organizational goals. So I think we have done with formal and informal. You understood the different dimensions, the perspectives, and the Elton Mayo study, Hawthorne study, very important. Other perspectives also, informal within formal also. So see, again, no society is purely formal or purely informal. Even in informal also, there will be some kind of rules, but not codified. Even in formal also, there are rules, but mostly you follow informal engagement, informal, setup and functioning. So modern workplace basically show a kind of continuum. This is a word you need to use. We discussed this in person in detail. You need to use formal, informal, need to be understood in terms of continuum. No society is perfectly modern. No society is perfectly traditional. Similarly, no organization is completely formal. No organization is completely informal. So it ranges. It's between the degree changes from 0 to 100. So it could be close to 100, it could be close to 0. So informal sector dominate the workforce in developing societies, right? Why? Because there are structural, legal, and economic reasons in developing societies. That's why in India, 90% is informal. Sociological understanding, when we discuss that, we look beyond the rules, right? And we look at studying the human behavior, relationship, alienation, mobility, the power networks within the organization. So that's what we are more interested in. So guys, that's all what I need to discuss in this topic. So you will get a 10 marker only, nothing much. Whatever content we discussed, that's well and good. For school of thought that regarding informal sector, you need to remember the dualist school, the structuralist school, the legalist school, and the voluntarist school. Apart from that, you can also talk about the Hawthorne studies, the motivation part, and informal group influence, productivity, and then the human relations. All those you can mention. And we've also discussed Peter Blau study, characteristics, features. All these we have covered. So that's about the session. Thank you so much. If you're looking for sociology course or mentorship, one-to-one mentorship or the test series, get in touch with us. See you there.